And we do have our first caller of the night standing by. On the line holding is Alvin. And thank you for calling LawCall, Alvin. And what is your question?
I'm asking concerning my wife's injury, having in the process of having shoulder surgery. She developed problems, and they waited around about 2 or 3 hours, and finally sent her to the emergency room. And she had a massive heart attack, and then after an hour there, they sent her on to, and that was about 5 hours from the initial medical treatment procedure, you know, on the shoulder and everything at about 7 o'clock that morning. But it seemed to me that there was some malpractice or something, or negligence or something or other, and I was wanting to find out if there would be any recovery on that.
Thank you so much for your call, Alvin. And what I can just tell already, you've got something to say here.
Well, first of all, Alvin, I'm sorry to hear that. That's a horrible situation. Your wife may have what's called a medical negligence or medical malpractice claim. In order to know that, though, you would have to, what I recommend is call a medical malpractice negligence attorney who will gather those medical records regarding your wife to look at whether or not, as you say, you think maybe some things weren't done properly that should have been done that could have prevented her situation from worsening. Those medical experts will review all of the records and to see what her condition was and what was done after, and piece together essentially a timeline of what happened and whether or not the standard of care was breached. In Mississippi, before you can even file a lawsuit now, you have to have a medical expert that's willing to certify that there's a negligence claim, or you can't even file the lawsuit. So it has to be reviewed, and it has to be reviewed by an expert to see if that deviation of care was breached. Now, doctors aren't guarantors that when they treat a patient, it's going to work out the way we all want it to work out. But they have to do whatever procedure that they're doing, or whatever they're doing medically has to follow basic rules or standards of care. And the question is whether or not that wasn't done. Now, I would warn you that a medical negligence claim is normally 2 years. However, it could be as short as 1 year depending on the doctor or the facility where it was done. For instance, a state hospital, a county facility, if it would fall under the Mississippi Tort Claims Act. So your time may be as short as 1 year, and then if it's a Tort Claims Act case, there's certain hoops that you have to jump through. So I would recommend not waiting, because it takes time just to gather the records and to locate the expert that's going to review it.
And talk about that review in the early part of that. To me, I guess it just seems like it's a little unfair. I mean, who reviews? How do you know you're getting a good review? And is it final once that happens? Okay, this expert says no, you don't have a case here, and you can't go forward. You know.
Well, the attorney and I would presume if you go to a plaintiff's attorney that does a lot of these, they will already have, and one way to speed it up is they already have people on staff normally that they can get it to.
Okay.
And so, and I know some attorneys, for instance, and another type, they have nurses, for instance, that can do quick reviews to put it together. And that's the other thing, an attorney will get them quicker for you. If you had to go and do this all by yourself, can you imagine the amount of time?
See, that's where my mind was.
The amount of expense.
Okay, so,
exactly.
So you need
and so, and again, experts are like anything else. You might have one expert. I mean, they're like doctors too. You know, you might have a heart situation where one doctor says we can't operate, it's too risky, another one says I can do it. I mean, it's whatever they feel comfortable with.
Wow.
But normally, yeah, the experts will be, you know, the plaintiff's lawyer, the attorney can get it to their own experts to make sure it's a fair review and have them review it. Then they can certify.
Okay.
So their own experts will be certifying.
Experts. Okay.
So
all righty. Okay.
But you make a good point about fairness. Is some of the problem, you know, we have one medical school in Mississippi, and doctors aren't going to necessarily go against their own friends.
Yes.
So sometimes you have to go outside the area. You have to go outside of Mississippi, for instance, to find, and that takes time sometimes, because you want to get an expert that's not going to be biased or knows another doctor in the area.
Okay.
So that's a good point.
Well, okay. Thank you so much for that information.